All right, so in our first activation, we're going to do what is called a prophetic lineup. I know, have you ever heard of such a thing? Well, you have now. So there's actually a biblical basis for this idea of a prophetic lineup, and it's actually found in the book of 1 Samuel. And in this story, we see where Samuel, he's grieving over the fact that Saul is just turned away from the Lord. He's not a great king. And the Lord tells him, hey, stop grieving. I've actually already anointed and ordained a new king. I've actually already chosen a new king for Israel, and I'm going to send you to the sons of Jesse. So essentially, God was sending Samuel to go look at this lineup to identify who the next king of Israel would be. So let's catch up with the story here in 1 Samuel 16. And I want you to pay attention to this idea, even visually, just imagining Samuel as he's kind of coming into the house of Jesse and the sons are lining up, and kind of watch to see how the Lord revealed to Samuel who the next king would be. So the Lord said to Samuel, fill your horn with oil and be on your way. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem. I have chosen one of his sons to be king. So when they arrived, Samuel saw Eliab and thought, surely the Lord's anointed stands here before the Lord. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Then Jesse called Abinadab and had him pass in front of Samuel. But Samuel said, the Lord has not chosen this one either. Jesse then had Shammah pass by, but Samuel said, nor has the Lord chosen this one. Jesse had 7 of his sons pass before Samuel, but Samuel said to him, the Lord has not chosen these. So he asked Jesse, are these all the sons you have? There is still the youngest, Jesse answered. He is tending the sheep. Samuel said, send for him. We will not sit down until he arrives. So he sent for him and had him brought in. He was glowing with health and had a fine appearance and handsome features. Then the Lord said, rise and anoint him. This is the one. All right, did you know that there was actually a lineup in the Bible? Well, here we see it, and isn't that kind of fun? So here's Samuel. He comes to Jesse's house. He's got all the sons lined up, and what's interesting is that his immediate response right off the bat was with the oldest Eliab. Eliab was catching his eye, but the Lord was not choosing him. And you know, a lot of times within our prophetic trainings, all of our activations around the world, we train people that God speaks spiritually through the natural realm, that God frequently will reveal his heart, his will, his voice through the things that we see naturally. So what was happening in this particular situation, because the Bible records that Samuel was caught, his eyes were caught by Eliab, but then God said, don't look at the outside appearance, look at the heart. And what I believe is happening here is that God is not necessarily saying that the way Samuel was receiving was incorrect. Okay, that was okay. The problem was that he was taking what he was seeing and he was leaning on his own understanding. He was assuming that because Eliab looked a certain way or that he was the oldest, that God was choosing him. He was actually even basing it on his own experience when he ordained Saul as king. Because if you remember, Saul was also very handsome in his features. He was a head taller than the rest of the men of Israel. And so he was probably leaning on his own understanding. So the Lord was correcting that. So Samuel's eyes were caught, but he didn't have the witness of the Holy Spirit. And that's really important, is that God is always speaking through the natural world. We're able to hear what God is speaking, but we also need to make sure we're listening to what is the Holy Spirit bearing witness to. And so even by the time David shows up on the scene, his eyes, again, were caught by David, his handsome features, you know, his good complexion. So his eyes were drawn to him. And then he also had the bearing of the witness of the Holy Spirit to affirm that this was God's choice. And so we're going to go ahead and practice our own prophetic lineup in this next activation.